Hey everyone! In this video we're going to be talking to Kevin from Rogue Deckbuilder about his Jund Dragon Tempest deck for the Frontier format. This is actually a sister video that is released alongside the Brewers Challenge Deck Tech Tuesday video. In that video I explain how Kevin and I were part of a group for brewing decks in an amino contest known as the Brewers Challenge. If you want to know more about it, click on the annotation I have on screen, or you can click the link in the description down below. Anyway, here's the conversation we had. I hope you all enjoy! So, what is the name of your deck and what is it exactly trying to do?
It's Descent of the Dragons is what the combo is trying to do. I think what I don't even know what I ended up calling it, like Thopter Dragons, or see how prepared I am with this. But it's basically trying to exploit Cryptothright. It's a deck that probably utilizes Cryptothright as well as any other deck to try to ramp out enough tokens to where the combo is Dragon Tempest with Descent of the Dragons. So if you have enough cards, or enough tokens, it doesn't require too much to do lethal. The Dragon Tempest is going to give the Descent of the Dragons tokens haste, as well as every token will see each other and multiply how much damage it does with the Dragon Tempest enter the battlefield trigger. So the deck is very capable of doing 80 plus damage in a single turn.
Cool. That's what I was looking at. I was like, it seems like one of those decks that like it kind of takes a while to get there, but once it does get there, it's kind of like a grand slam home run, just everything all at once, and just like kind of an overwhelming type of strategy.
Yep, and it plays the attrition war very well because everything in the deck is at least leaving back a token, and it's decent versus sweepers. Has a good board plan against sweepers. The evolutionary leap is very strong. When I played this deck, it was actually a standard version of the deck, and it was incredibly strong versus the control matchups, as the evolutionary leap just continued to fill back up my hand and it protected them. Well, I say protected in a sense, at least, that I'll replace the cards that are being killed with another card.
So you said you built this originally for standard. What kind of differences are there for the Frontier version as opposed to the standard version?
Frontier has way more access to more token generators, so it just has better options and better choices, especially in the sideboard, to hate out particular decks. Overall, it's not a lot different than when it was in standard. We pick up Kolaghan, which I think is an alternate win condition, because it's just, again, a few tokens out there that Kolaghan can attack and give them all +1/+0, and everything flies in the deck, so it can easily one-shot an opponent.
Sweet. Any deck that can use the baby Kolaghan is something that I love. I built a standard deck. It was like a Jund landfall deck that had Kolaghan for top end, and yeah, I love that card. So any deck that utilizes that card, I'm totally 100% for.
Yep, it's seeing a lot of play right now in Frontier. There's a lot of strategies.
So what would you say would be both the deck's strengths and weaknesses? Like, what are like some of the better matchups and like some of the weaker ones?
The better matchups by far would be the decks. It's very good at clogging aggro. So aggro decks, I think, would be the ideal matchups because you're just delaying the inevitable with the combo. Eventually they'll draw into it, or you'll just outvalue the aggro. They have to spend a lot of resources trying to push through, and when every card's leaving back a Thopter or two Thopters, and then just gets snowballs out of control with Hangerback Walker and things like that. The more difficult matchups, I would say, is other combo-based decks, because there's not a lot of ways to disrupt what your opponent is trying to do, and so your only hope is to really out-combo them. So Marvel decks, which are decently popular in the format, are going to be a tough matchup, as well as, I would say, heavy control. We're talking control that just has a ton of sweepers and a lot of draws like Dig Through Time and Treasure Cruise type things might be a bit difficult. Haven't had a lot of testing in Frontier, and the only matchups that I have gone against are like the Atarka Reds and various other token builds, and it does very well against those.
Okay, good, because from what I understand, Atarka Red's kind of the boogeyman of the format, right?
Yeah, I think it is the enforcer right now of the metagame. If you can't survive for 4 turns without... it's keeping a lot of do-nothing decks from seeing much play. Because the target's going to come out with like a Swift Spear first turn into a they have so many options too. There's so many ways to build either go wide strategy with a Tarka Red or even just the Become Immense Team or Battle Rage version that tries to hook up like an Abbot or a Monastery Swiss Spear, and then they even have you see some green red energy influences in the deck as well. So it keeps things very honest in Frontier.
Cool, cool. All right, so considering the release of Aether Revolt, is there any changes that you'd make to the deck now, like a couple weeks after you initially brewed it?
We get a few. We get another Thopter generator that looks interesting, but probably I've made versions before that were Teamer rather than Jund, and the Teamer version ran the Whirler Rogues, and then we get another Thopter generator, puts 2 Thopters into play, and then has Improvise, so it could be as cheap as 2 mana, but it's a little redundant with Crypt with Right. So not a lot of things, just the usual suspects for as far as black cards are concerned. The Fatal Push is going to be insanely good with anything that runs a fetch land. Oh, yeah. So it's just going to be auto-included in a deck like this for the matchups where you need to take care of like an early Jace or a Soulfire Grandmaster or something. But I don't think, aside from that, there's not a lot of cards that I think Aether Revolt adds to. It's pretty complete, but once you start messing with the Jund Thopters list, those slots are pretty filled. Because I didn't even include cards like the regular Pia Nalar. I think I might have put one of, but there seem to be a lot more slots where, well, this could go in this, where Duskwatch Recruiter could be in this deck because it's a great way to fill back up the hand, and it just had no room. So all the pieces do is very specific things, unless there's something broken that generates creature tokens. I don't think any of them are going to impact it.
There was that one combo that was shown in Aether Revolt, the Metallic Mimic and Animation module, I think is what it is. And it's kind of like the Sword of the Meek combo, kind of like the modern.
One mana keep making a thing.
Do you think like that kind of combo could be somehow built around with like the way that you built your deck, essentially? Like
you could, but I would rather go like a Reckless Fireweaver type strategy. Okay. That sort of damage is a lot easier to, because the thing about the Jund Thopters list is it didn't rely on the combo. I started off with a 4 of each, and then I was winning a lot of games just with the out value, winning the attrition war versus kind of the mid-range control decks and the aggro decks. And the combo was just in there to make people always aware that there is a combo. And it's one of those things. I like to have little spicy finishes. And the really cool combo is Hangerback Walker. You could use it immediately when it came into play.
I was about to say,
right?
Yeah, because you can use the Hangerback Walker immediately for the. Yeah, I was gonna say the deck itself seems like super synergistic. Like each card seems to have a reason to be in there rather than just being there by itself. You know, it works in tandem with another card, and that's what I really liked about it.
That's how I build decks. So a lot of people confuse me with a combo player. I actually detest combo. A lot of people know the deck I cannot stand in Modern right now is Ad Nauseam. I think it's just cancer on the format, just because it doesn't care to interact. It's the same game over and over again. You're just trying to get 2 pieces or maybe 3 pieces to a combo. I'm not a big fan of like all-out scape shift. I know I compared the combo to scape shift as it one-shots, or that's what you're trying, but it doesn't need. Most decks that I build don't need the combo. They're just an added kind of punch to the deck.
Okay, sweet. So if someone were to look at this list with like no context whatsoever, what would you say would be the most overlooked or non-obvious card or synergy in the deck?
I would just say the Thopter Beatdown, that the Thopter Engineer can really turn the tables quite quickly. It can snowball out of control with a Hangerback Walker. So you can sack a Hangerback Walker to the Evolutionary Leap, and a lot of times then just dash in a Kolaghan, and it's game over right there. And the deck is very easy of generating an insane amount of mana, and you can snowball with it, almost net upping mana with the Evolutionary Leap and the Crypt with Right a lot of times. So you can unload your entire hand and refill it back up, and how quickly you can turn the tables on an aggro based deck.
Sweet. So, and for my final question, this might kind of seem similar to the previous question, but Again, if someone were to play with the deck, do you have any like tips or suggestions with how to play it correctly? Like, is there any like, say, given any situations where you would punt a play or something, is there any like card or like line in there that you may have already played before that you got burned on that you would suggest newer players with the deck to avoid?
Well, you of course want to make sure you can go off with the combo if you have the combo. So if they have any way to destroy the Tempest in response, that's not a good, line of play to go out all out on the combo. I actually suggest not. As tempting as it can be, sometimes if you have the win in your hand, it's not the right play to try to push it out unless you've got a clear path. Another thing is resource management. This is newer players especially struggle from it, is each one of your Thopters or each one of your creatures will generate a mana once you get the Cryptoth Right out. And so a lot of times you need to not worry so much about your life total unless you're playing against a deck that can burn you out, and use that life total as a resource and keep those 1/1s as insignificant as they may seem. Even trading with opposing 2/1s, for example, if there was a 3/1 in the format, sometimes that's the wrong play. You just need to build your forces and then leave yourself that angle. I think the biggest advice I have for new players is to avoid the whole lose less. If you understand what I'm saying, it seems to be they try to avoid losing as poorly as possible, so that they'll try to like stall the game, and the writing's on the wall, the inevitability's on the wall. There's no way. It's almost like in football, if you're down by a couple touchdowns, just still trying to run the ball. I mean, you have to Hail Mary it. Your odds are terrible, but you have to find that one out, and sometimes it's not. It's just letting that damage go through and going to one, and then hoping your opponent doesn't top deck or have the answer, and then just going for it. So.
Right, some games you can't play long ball with, you just gotta go for it, and just sometimes can't durdle around if you, I mean, like you said earlier, if you see an opportunity, it's not corrected to go for it, but there is some situations where if you don't do it now, you're either going to lose or you're dead right now. Like, it's just, you gotta go and get it. Yeah, I get what you mean. Cool, alright, well, those were the questions I had for you. Thank you very much, Kevin.
Yep.
Cool.
Oh, I guess there's two cards. Going back to your question, now I'm looking over spoilers. There's two cards that actually look interesting in the this particular deck. I don't know if you'd particularly build it in it, but you're right with Metallic Mimic naming Thopter. Does seem pretty powerful in this deck, making all Thopters come in as 2/2s. But it's a Rishkar, the Renegade. Actually, does seem like a nifty.
That's the one where if it has a +1/+1 counter, it taps for a green, right?
Yeah, that's a card that I'm definitely looking at, these token-based strategies, especially with Nissa. I'm trying to debate if Crypt Right's the route to go.
Yeah, that actually sounds really interesting. Well, I mean, Rishkar, it would be kind of the same as Cryptolith Right, except it dies to more removal, I guess.
Yes, yep.
But, I mean, like, you could definitely have your Cryptolith Rights in the main board in the hand, and then have like Rishkar as like a 5th Cryptolith Right.
Rishkar doesn't even seem bad too if you're not going to go for the mana. Just with the +1/+1 counter on 2, to spread it wide. It's a card that I'm definitely interested in putting back. I have a similar list to this. It runs completely different. It actually runs very similar in Standard. It was my go-to deck till Aetheric Marvel. Basically just took over the meta. Green-Black Delirium and Aetheric Marvel were both tough matchups. Was a Green-Black Fabricate list that I ran with Cryptoth Right, and again, tokens. In this case, it's more Eldrazi's and Servos than Thopters, but as we don't have access to many Thopters right now in Standard for green and black. But the win con would either be the Marionette Master, by sacking enough creatures to... it does damage equal to the power of the Marionette Master, or opponent loses life equal to the power of Marionette Master for each artifact that dies. And then there's also Westvale Abbey. I guess that was another win condition in the deck as well for the Jund Thopters. There was Westvales in the deck.
Right, I completely forgot that Westvale Abbey was a thing.
It's a little very risky to go off with Westvale Crackling Doom everywhere, but...
Oh, right.
As far as Standard, if people are interested in a list like this, then Greenback Fabricate definitely runs very similar. It's a strategy I keep going back to.
And that was the interview/conversation that I had with Kevin from Rogue Deckbuilder. Let me know what you think of this deck and our collaboration in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and let me know if you want to see more content like this in the future. If you haven't subscribed, make sure to do so. I'm Tasty Snackies, you all have been wonderful, and I'll catch you all on the flip side.